Okay. We should be pretty much live already. Yeah, okay. I think we're probably live now. There's always a little bit of that delay. Guys in the chat, let me know how everything is looking and sounding. Let me know if it's okay. Let me know if you hear background music. Let me know if you hear my voice clearly, if the audio levels are correct. Let me know if visually things are okay. It's just my face cam today. I don't anticipate putting anything else out there. Tonight, it's just going to be a little bit more of, I guess, a Q&A, which to me is just, it's the podcast, but it's just me. So, yeah. There'll still be tons of talking because that's what I do. I talk a lot, but I'll be talking more specifically with you guys. But we'll still be covering the topics that I plan on covering for the week. So that's pretty much it. I've done it a couple times before. It kind of works out when I don't have a guest lined up. Just do a Q&A, and I think it works out pretty well. You guys always kind of keep me going. So I think we'll be just fine tonight. But I'll just explain what the plan is in terms of the topics, but of course, because of you guys in the chat, the options are boundless, really. So keep that in mind. But yes, this is a typical Nintendo podcast discussion live stream we do usually Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time, but it can vary. I know I still haven't done the member thing. I intended on getting it done this week, but I didn't. I'm sorry. This has been a go thing for a while. I will work on the member thing. I promise. I just haven't done it yet. But I will. I promise. But anyway, so the plan for tonight is to talk about the Game Awards. We're going to be talking about the Game Awards a lot leading up to the Game Awards. But at this point, we're like 5 weeks away or something like that. About that. 5 to 6 weeks. I don't know the exact date, but it's usually early December. And you know what? Let me just look it up. Game Awards 2021. Give me a date. Come on. What is it? December 9th. And it is October 24th. So, all right. So, next Sunday is the last day of October. Then we got the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, the 28th. That's 5 weeks. And yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 will be the 5th of December. So we got about 6.5 weeks. Okay, maybe 6.5 weeks away. We're pretty close. The Game Awards hype is now beginning. We're already seeing talk of it on social media. They're already sort of starting to tease things. So we're going to start talking about things. But since it's a Nintendo channel, we're going to be talking about what we can maybe expect. And this is not like the full official predictions yet. This is just me like spin out ideas, but you'll get a good idea of where my mindset is at by the end of this discussion here. So we're gonna be talking about what I sort of expect in terms of Nintendo announcements, because we usually get a few Nintendo announcements every Game Awards, and we'll talk a little bit about nominations as well. There's one in particular that I want to talk about. All the rest I really don't care about, but maybe I'll change my mind when I talk about it with you guys. So we're gonna be talking about that. Spoiler, the nomination I'm hoping for is Metroid Dread for Game of the Year, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Hisuian Zorua and Zoroark. They are regional variants. There are regional variants of them, Hisuian ones, coming to Pokemon Legends Arceus. We're going to talk a little bit about that and how they had a little bit of a tease of them throughout the week. And we're also going to talk about my impressions of Sora and Smash Brothers as well, and whatever you guys in the chat come up with. And I'm sure that, I mean, there's just so much possibilities there. So yeah, there's so much. But before we actually jump into the topics, let me kind of get into the chat, talk with you guys, as this is a Q&A after all, and we'll go from there. So, hello there, Jeff. Game walkthroughs, hello. Seahawks24, what's up? SAH, hello. Ronnie Fazio, good evening. Lord Vader, hello there. Ice Sonic, what is up, my friend? Birdman, hello. Who else but Zane? The audio sounds good. Thank you, Zane. Thank you very much for letting me know that. Birdman, thank you. Seahawks, thank you. Ronnie Fazio, thank you for telling me. Great. Chunky Crocodile 100. A chunky hello to you. Rescue Squad Culp, hello there. Joycey J, hello, how are you? Lord Vader, I like the advice there. Hit the like button, guys. I would absolutely appreciate that. Doing lasagna. What is going on? Taker610, good evening to you. Thank you for the super chat. So, Taker610, you ask, are you getting the expansion pass tomorrow? Oh, right. October 25th is tomorrow. Oh, yeah. I am. Maybe. I think. I want it. It's more of just a finances thing. Should I buy it now? Should I wait for my paycheck? Yeah. Probably, yeah. If I don't get it tomorrow, I'm getting it probably sometime this week. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm getting it. For those who are unaware, the expansion passes would be the expansion pass to Nintendo Online. So Nintendo Online, if you don't know, it's already a thing. It's $5 a month, or like $20 for a year, something like that. Yeah, it's less than $5 a month, $20 for a year. But if you want to get the expansion pack gives you Nintendo 64 Online, Sega Genesis Online, and Animal Crossing DLC for free as well. I really just want the N64 stuff. The Animal Crossing thing, I may dabble in it. The Sega Genesis, okay, well, there's some games there that I want to play. There's some games there I want to play. So, yeah, for me, $50 for a year, it's worth it. I am in a family plan though, so I might need to discuss that with friends. I guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but I do, some way or another, I do plan on getting it. For me, just the ability to play the Sega Genesis games, sure, but mainly the N64 games. I want those N64 games. I want to have them on my Switch. I like the idea of having multiplayer on there. Star Fox multiplayer, F-Zero multiplayer, Mario Kart multiplayer, online multiplayer, just to be clear. Like that, yeah, I'm into that. In HD, I'm into that. Having the games on my Switch, I'm into that. So I love N64. It was my first personal console. So the nostalgia is very, very, very strong. So I absolutely will be getting it, even if it is perhaps a little pricey, because I am just that gung-ho about N64. So yeah, I'm all in. It's just finances and managing the online family account that I may ignore. I don't know. We'll see. Yubakor, will you be getting Shin Megami Tensei 5? Probably. If reviews go well, yes. If the game turns out to be garbage, then no. But if the game's at least like pretty good, I'm probably gonna get it. From what I've seen of the Treehouse footage, it looks very promising. It looks like a fun RPG. It is a little challenging, because there are a lot of games I want to play, right? I'm probably gonna pick up Mario Party. I'm gonna get this N64 expansion pack. I have nostalgia for Pokemon Pearl, so I do kind of want Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. So there's that, and I never actually got Platinum, so I kind of want that Platinum content. I believe the Platinum content isn't Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, or I'm at least making that assumption. So there's a few different games I want to get there. Thankfully, in a way, Advanced Wars got delayed, so I don't have to worry about picking that up this year, I guess. So, you know, it might be a little bit easier for me to manage things with one less game for me, big game for me to get this year. I'll probably get it if it's good, and I expect it to be good. So I would say more likely than not, I'm going to be picking up the game. Paco Salvador, hello. DE Fox, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. Yeah, doing okay. I'm not sure what I can talk about publicly, but there are a number of things in my personal life that are under flux right now. So I'm kind of in a situation where I don't know what is going to happen next for me. Now, to be clear, I'm not at all suggesting that YouTube is going to stop or anything like that, but there may be a change of scenery temporarily, indefinitely. I'm not sure. My scheduling may vary. That also, you know, is going to be up in the air. The content's still going to come. It's just the manner in which I deliver that content, that there's going to be some potential fluctuation there with the different pending life changes that may or may not be happening that I am not sure of right now. So, you know, it's not bad stuff. It's just kind of like up in the air stuff mostly. Big transitional period of my life right now, for a number of different reasons. But I would say I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. I have a lot of ambition. Let's just say that. Joycey J. I love the Game Awards, even if the games don't grab me. For me, the Game Awards is always about the announcements, really. Rarely do I care about the awards. One, because I'm a hardcore Nintendo fan, and I feel like it's not every year that Nintendo has a Game of the Year candidate kind of game. And there have been a few times I feel like certain games have gotten snubbed. Xenoblade Chronicles, I don't think, wasn't even nominated for Best RPG for its respective year. And Fire Emblem Three Houses, I think it got some awards, but I think it deserves more attention than it didn't get enough attention during that year. So, you know, there were those things. Smash Ultimate, I don't believe won Game of the Year, even though it was like the best-selling game of that year and the most popular game of that year, and it had better reviews across the board. Like, none of those metrics were good enough to make it win, because it's a fighting game or a party game, however you want to call it. It didn't fit the mold of what a Game of the Year game would typically be, so it didn't win, even though and that could be misremembering. My Nintendo bias may be kicking in here, but from what I remember, Smash Ultimate was the highest rated game on Metacritic. It was the best selling, and it was certainly the most popular trending. And despite all of those things in its favor, it did not win Game of the Year that year. Again, it's just, you know, it's opinions, but there's also politics involved, I feel, with the Game Awards. So I try not to put too much stock into it. But this year, I'm going to hype up Metroid Dread. I'm going to talk about how it deserves to be at least a Game of the Year nomination. And there's a good chance my heart will be broken. But if it isn't, it's going to be a special moment. So we're going to talk about that later. Game walkthroughs. Metroid Dread is so damn good. You're damn right it is. Metroid Dread is awesome. Metroid Dread is an instant classic to me. It is everything I could have hoped for a 2D Metroid game, to be totally honest with you. I just have minimal criticisms for the game. I'm not saying that is it perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. No such thing. But it is so well thought out. It is so replayable. It's so stunning. There's some really special moments. It's just fun to play the game. You know, I had this thought earlier, and I kind of like ran it by my roommate before I started the discussion here tonight. But I've had this thought that this generation, it seems like, for Nintendo's sort of premier adventure games, there was a bit of a focus on mobility and interactivity with the environment. So there's really 3 games in mind when I'm talking about these philosophies. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, and now Metroid Dread. If you guys can think of some other examples, bring it out to me, but I think most of Nintendo's other like franchises aren't really like adventure games, so they haven't really had the opportunity to use this sort of philosophy. But these games, when you go and play them, let's not talk about story, let's not talk about length or content. Let's just talk about, you go in there and you play with not even an objective in mind necessarily. It's just fun to move around. You notice that? So like, I could jump and play, like oftentimes, because, you know, over the last couple of years, I've made a number of Zelda theories and speculation videos, and sometimes I go and record gameplay footage. I've already put, you know, I've played the game to Kingdom Come. Like, if I consider my different accounts, I've put in at least 400 hours. I'm sure some people put in more, but 400 hours is a lot. And I can still play the game and just get absorbed. I can just, whenever I go and record footage, like I play the game and I continue playing. Like it's just fun to explore and interact with the environment. The controls are engaging. It's just fun to play. It's like a playground. Same thing with Super Mario Odyssey. Exact same feeling I get. Even if I have all the moons, whenever I jump in to record footage or just mess around, I find myself getting stuck a little bit because I just want to kind of play around with the mechanics. I kind of want to explore the environment, see what I can do with the jumping, and there's just something to the mobility and interactivity with the environment that is quite enthralling. It's a playground. And now we talk about Metroid Dread, because those games came out in 2017. Metroid Dread's a 2021 game. But, you know, in this way, it's similar. You play Metroid Dread. I've already 100%ed it on normal mode. I already beat it on hard. I plan on doing a third playthrough so I can unlock a few more pieces of concept art and kind of get my time down. Maybe I can get under 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to try to speedrun it a little bit. For me, speedrun, not like competitive speedrun. But regardless, it's just fun to play. It's just fun to kind of get in there and move around, shoot around, try the different platforming techniques, interact with the environment. There's so much attention to detail with the animations and what you can do. It feels so smooth. It's so snappy and fun and fluid. It's a fun to play. Playing Metroid Dread is like playing in a playground. So there's a similarity here that I've noticed. Even though all three games are very different, in this way they're very similar. And I feel like that's kind of poetic because once upon a time, back on the NES, Nintendo had certain design philosophies, and they created, you know, the Super Mario Bros., right? And then they created Legend of Zelda, and then they created Metroid. And they had a similar sort of design philosophy back then. Mario and Zelda have gone on to become incredibly successful. But now, with Metroid Dread, we're seeing a situation where we could be seeing a change in the destiny of Metroid, where it could perhaps start to get closer to those other two. In terms of sales, that's what I'm talking about here. Metroid Dread is going to be the best-selling Metroid game of all time. That seems like it's like a foregone conclusion at this point. And that momentum could sort of continue to sort of, you know, spiral downwards in a good way, or upwards, however you choose to say. But the point is, it's building momentum, and hopefully we see something great for Metroid next year and the year after. And it's nice, and it's just kind of interesting when you consider that, and just the mobility of this game. This concept when talking about the mobility of your character and how you interact with the environment, how it's just fun to do, even with no objective in mind. And it kind of makes me wonder if Nintendo has one of this as a philosophy in mind with their internal development. Now I understand Mercury Steam is an outside developer from Nintendo, but keep in mind it wasn't just Mercury Steam. Yoshio Sakamoto works for Nintendo, Metroid series director, was at the helm for that project, and there was a Nintendo team put together. It was a combination of Nintendo and Mercury Steam here. So definitely those core internal Nintendo development philosophies probably were at play here as well. I don't know to what extent, obviously, but based off what I'm saying here, it kind of makes me wonder, maybe they had something similar in mind here. And it could all come down to like what Nintendo's current gen mindset for their adventure games. Because in that way, I feel it's very similar to Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, even though they're very different kinds of games. And it makes me excited about what we may see from Metroid Prime 4. So we'll see with that one, although Retro Studios is working on it. But I would love it if they were to continue with this idea of focusing on mobility and interactivity with the environment. Make it sure it's just fun to play and mess around. Like, that's got to be the most important thing here. And if they do that, we could be looking at another game like Metroid Dread, like Mario Odyssey, like Breath of the Wild, where it's an instant classic. So just like an idea I've sort of had in mind lately. And with that in mind, I think it's certainly fitting for Metroid Dread to at least be a Game of the Year consideration. If it shares that sort of core philosophy with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, some of the highest rated games of all time, Breath of the Wild winning more Game of the Year awards than any other, and had Breath of the Wild not come out in 2017, Mario Odyssey would be the game that would have been the Game of the Year. So, you know, I think Metroid Dread perhaps deserves some consideration. That's not the only reason, but I think it's a strong consideration there. Who else but Zane? Have you ever invested in Nintendo stock? You know a lot about the industry. So Nintendo stock is they're on a different, like, it's from Japan, right? I haven't. I've thought about it before. Like, I think had I invested in Nintendo stock before the Switch, that would have been good. Had I invested in Nintendo stock before the Wii, that would have been good. But at the same time, like, that bias for Nintendo would have potentially led me astray and think, oh man, the Wii U, it's an HD Wii, it's just going to be incredible, right? And then, you know, it's like perspective is critical here, and sometimes we don't know how well it's going to do. Like, I wanted the Switch to do really well, but I wasn't convinced it would do this well. I had hopes, you know, I definitely like wanted to bet on that, but would I have been willing to invest a lot of money in it? I don't know. And the stock industry is tough because there's ups and downs, and you don't know when to sell and when to not. And I mean, I'm just not that into stocks. Maybe I should be, but I don't know. I guess, you know, at least because I am such a dork about like video games, I'd have a better shot at making a good estimation of a company's success than most. So maybe I could consider that more often. But again, I probably should, but I don't really do too much stock stuff. I do mess a little bit with crypto. Very little. Actually, funny story. Funny for someone, not for me. I had put in $400 into Ethereum a few months ago, and I was working on a Sunday. I had two-factor authentication set up and all of this, and I noticed like a few days later that all my Ethereum was gone. Apparently there was like text messages sent on my phone asking if I approved a certain transaction, and without my knowing, someone got into my crypto account wallet, changed all my Ethereum, $400 worth of Ethereum, into Bitcoin, and then transferred it elsewhere. So basically I got hacked and robbed, and I had no idea about it. Like, there's two-factor authentication, like, it was scary. So at that point I had changed all my passwords, changed everything, wiped my phone. I had no idea how it happened. And what was weird, because crypto's supposed to be like safe, permanent. Well, the thing is, because it's permanent, because that money was transferred, there's no way of getting it back. So I basically just lost $400. Like, it's actually pretty stupid. So yeah, I haven't invested much lately since then. So yeah. Holly Pinky, hello there. SHC Grunt, what is up? I'm okay. I'm doing okay. Thanks you for asking. The crypto robbery happened a few months ago, so I'm not as salty. I'm still salty, but not that salty. Divine Zenith, hello. Freaky Deaky, Sundays are chill. I like having the Sunday night discussions. It's pretty chilling for me, and calming. Chilling can have an opposite connotation. Hashim Ye, hello. With Berto Cepeda, hola, ¿cómo estás? Holly Pinky, whoa, I got some. My chat just jumped here. Birdman, apparently Switch Online app on Switch will be on maintenance later on tonight. Makes sense because N64 expansion pack and all that stuff is coming out tomorrow. Taker, what is up? Who else was in? I feel like N64 games haven't really aged well. Yeah. So the 64-bit, just the 3D era, the first generation of that, they probably have aged the least gracefully, but I still want to play those games, and I think the HD resolution and playing on a Pro Controller will help a lot to make them feel a little bit better. Like, playing 3D All-Stars, playing Mario 64 and 3D All-Stars works out just fine. Seahawks 24 rule. Next year is going to be packed, though. Yeah, it's going to be very packed. For sure. We've got a lot to play next year. Advance Wars getting pushed in definitely, scrunches things. I don't know. It makes me wonder, is anything getting delayed? Or are there certain games that haven't been announced yet that won't be coming out? Like, there's a Xenoblade 3, there's the Donkey Kong, there's a Metroid Prime remake. Like, do one of those things not make the cut? Is there a next generation Pokemon coming out for next holiday as well? I don't know. Like there's a lot. There's a lot. I hope time is in my favor next year. Let's just say that. Yes, SD card Advance Wars was delayed into spring 2022, unfortunately. December would have actually been a great time for me. I mean, I'll probably put a lot of time into both Brilliant Diamond and Shoving Out a Tensei 5 between November and December. So, you know, it probably won't be that big a deal. But, yeah, I really want to play Advance Wars. That was something I was really looking forward to. Still gonna play it, just months later. Freaky Dicky. My family lives in Antarctica where they fish whale blubber and have no internet, so no online family account for me, but I'm prepared to shell $50 a year for Dr. Mario 64 and Echo the Dolphin Genesis. Echo the Dolphin, I really want to play that. I really want to play that. Birdman, try PS1 games. They are awful in today's date, except Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 6. Yeah, I know you were speaking to Zane there, but I mean, I probably could have done more for Final Fantasy 7. I played it on Switch, and then I tried to play the remake on PlayStation. Both times I failed to finish the game, so smite me. I'm sorry, I didn't. Maybe I should go back to. I mean, I'm probably not that far. I'm probably fairly close in 7 remake. It was just a weird side quest that kind of like threw me off. Story was awesome, visuals were awesome, gameplay was awesome. I probably should go back. Yeah, 2022 is going to be tough on many of our wallets, Paco Salvador. Let's see here. I'm going to kind of scroll through the chat a little bit. Sorry if I missed your chat. I'm going to get focused on the ads here. Paco Salvador. The Game Awards are biased against some games and genres because they don't have mainstream appeal even though they deserve the recognition. Yeah, and that makes me concerned for Metroid Dread, but at the same time, Metroid Dread has done a good job of being more mainstream than normal. So I don't know, you know, maybe, but at the same time, there are some wackos that are like, Metroid Dread is terrible, the gameplay is bad, this is not how you design a game, you gotta tell me how to go everywhere and can hold my hand because I'm bad. I'm being kind of facetious, but not. Like, there are some people who clearly just, I don't know, don't like being challenged, I guess. Like it when everything is super obvious, which I'm not about. You know, I actually enjoy the challenge. I enjoy figuring things out. I like it when there's, you know, it's not entirely clear. That's interesting. And also, Metroid Dread's not even like that crazy because the game kind of funnels you in the right direction anyway. You just have to think about it sometimes. But we'll see. It's definitely gonna be tough. But if Metroid Dread wins Game of the Year, it at least should be nominated. If it's not nominated, that's a joke. Because of like the games that have gotten over 100 critical reviews on Metacritic, it is one of the most highest rated. It's definitely in the top 5 from what I understand that are like brand new games for this year, not like remasters or ports or something. And it's selling pretty well. It's buzzing on social media. It's got a good narrative behind it. Metroid gone for 19 years, at least the 2D Metroid storyline. You have a Spanish developer getting some notoriety here. Like, there's a lot of pretty storylines here. There's a lot of good narratives. I think it would fit the whole political narrative genre bias of the Game Awards, but at the same time, it's a great game. It's deserving of it. People will argue, well, it's a 2D game. It shouldn't. But wouldn't that be nice if a 2D game won Game of the Year? One of the special things about Metroid Dread, I think it shows that 2D games can still be amazing. 2D games can still give you an epic experience, can still have kind of like that AAA feel. And that's exactly what Metroid Dread does by, you know, being kind of like that 2.5D style where there are moments with the Omega Cam where he pulls behind the camera. There's a lot of those cool dynamic cutscenes and the boss fights and just these really cool moments. Like, the game is a spectacle. It's an absolute spectacle. It's a showcase, and it's cinematic. There's some really cool stuff there, even though it's a 2D game. And from a gameplay perspective, it's very engaging. It's very deep. It would be nice. I think it would tell a nice little tale, you know? So, if it wins Game of the Year, I'll probably cry. Just saying, like, it's just gonna be a beautiful moment if that happens. I don't know if it'll happen, but I hope it will. I mean, you know, I'll be okay if it's just a nomination, but if it's not nominated, I'm crying foul. Like, I'm just gonna be like, this is bullshit. Like, yeah, it needs to be nominated. It doesn't have to win Game of the Year, but my goodness, it deserves to be at least in the conversation. I'll continue on the chat here. Birdman, I'd say the first-person shooters in the 5th generation were legit taking its first steps on that generation. Ronnie Fazio added me. I agree about games being snubbed at the Game Awards. In my opinion, Yakuza Like a Dragon should have gotten more nominations, however, they probably still view it as niche. Right? Igor Lucena, Bayonetta 2 by far Game of the Year 2014, lost to a piece of... I don't even know what that was, but Bayonetta 2, if I remember, was a highly reviewed game. Quality stuff. I actually need to play it. I haven't done it yet, but I will. Dylan Lasagna, thoughts on the new GTA Trilogy Remastered that's coming to soon? Will you be checking it out? The Grand Theft Auto Trilogy is something I've been talking about well before it was announced. I kind of expected it. Will I be picking it up? Probably not. Not because I don't think it's great. I just am not a big Grand Theft Auto fan. And as I may have already heard me sort of talking about, I'm kind of find myself hard pressed between what I already kind of need to pick up between the expansion pack and Shin Megami Tensei 5 and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. I might. I probably won't. Like, just being real. And again, it's not me saying it's not great. I think it is great. I think if you're into Grand Theft Auto, or if you're curious about Grand Theft Auto, this seems like a really good package. I think you should go for it. It's just, you know, Grand Theft Auto is just typically not what I'm into. Let's see here. Lewis added me. I think it's pretty bold to assume Odyssey would win over Breath of the Wild. And I still think Breath of the Wild would have gone Game of the Year because it was such a shift from other Zelda titles we've seen. I don't know if you understood my point, or maybe I said it incorrectly. Breath of the Wild did win Game of the Year pretty much across the board for almost every single like Game of the Year award show. And it came out the same year as Mario Odyssey. Like, Breath of the Wild absolutely deserved that. What I was trying to say is that if Breath of the Wild did not come out that year, if it was just Mario Odyssey was such a high quality game that I think innovated in its own right, and it would have stood above all the other games that came out that year, save for Breath of the Wild. Like, Mario Odyssey was a #2 game that year, but if Breath of the Wild had not come out that year, Mario Odyssey would have won a lot of Game of the Year awards. That's the point I was making. Like, it's a really, really good game. So, you know, I think it was 1A and 1B that year. It was just a really good year for Nintendo. Game walkthroughs. Do you think Metroid Prime 4 will show up at the Game Awards? Oh. Alright, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Shall I say that probably not? Let me skip this. Where this is gonna be a big tangent. So, like, it's possible, right? Like, I'm not gonna say it can't happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And the reason I don't think it's gonna happen is because I think there's just a lot of other options right now that Nintendo needs to prioritize over Metroid Prime 4. And it's not to say that I don't think Nintendo isn't going to prioritize Metroid Prime 4, but a lot of it comes down to the timing. And the thing about Metroid Prime 4 is that I don't think that's coming out in 2022. I think we're looking at a 2023 release, and not an early 2023 release, like a late 2023 release. That's what I think we're looking at right now. Some people might even argue 2024. I don't agree with that. I think it's 2023. Like, that's the year. We'll see. I could be mistaken, right? But that's what I think. And I think what's going to happen is that we're going to get something Metroid next year. okay? But it's not Metroid Prime 4. And that Metroid something, whatever it is, takes priority over Prime 4 right now. Now you could argue they show off both at the Game Awards. Maybe they could do both. Maybe they could like announce, let's say the rumors are true, the Metroid Prime remake. They announced that at the Game Awards this year. And then they give us a teaser for Prime 4. They could do that. But I feel like a Metroid Prime remake, at least according to the rumor, because apparently this game's been in development for a few years, all right? So the implication here of this remake or remaster is it's an ambitious one. It's something that's going to be quite a looker. It's going to be a showstopper, which would be, you know, it would be a good time to do at the Game Awards. If it's a showstopper, why not show it at a show? The Game Awards show, right? Stop the show. Anyway, so if that's the case, like, I don't think there's any need to show off Metroid Prime 4 when Metroid Prime Remake is already gonna be like a pretty cool, awesome deal. And I think like just having that, the existence of an HD Metroid Prime game, introducing the world to the Metroid Prime gameplay in a modern way, that is already gonna be teasing Metroid Prime 4. That's already gonna be a great setup for Metroid Prime 4. The game itself will be marketing for Metroid Prime 4. There's no need to tease it quite yet, not at the Game Awards. That's what I think. Now, if Metroid Prime 4 is coming out next year, that's a different ballgame, right? But I don't think it is. I think the Metroid Prime Remake or Prime Trilogy is coming first. So there's that. But another consideration here is that what if we get DLC for Metroid Dread? You know? Why not? Most Nintendo games, Nintendo published games, get some level of DLC. Why wouldn't Metroid Dread get DLC? Like, it may be strange to think of a Metroid game getting DLC because it's never happened before, but Luigi's Mansion got DLC, Fire Emblem got DLC, Pokemon got DLC, and that had not happened before. Breath of the Wild got DLC. Mario Odyssey didn't get paid DLC, so there's that. But Smash got DLC, Kirby Star Allies had DLC, Splatoon had DLC, Animal Crossing has DLC. Like, most of Nintendo's games get DLC, so conceivably they could announce DLC for Metroid Dread at the Game Awards, and that may be a fitting time because Metroid Dread could very well be a nomination, you know? So I mean, it's gotta be, there's no way Metroid Dread's not nominated for something. Like, if it isn't, then it's bogus. Wouldn't even be the beginning of a description of what sort of travesty of justice that would be if Metroid Dread doesn't get any sort of nomination at the Game Awards. It absolutely needs to be mentioned at some point. It has to. Like, it just can't. There's no way. This would be a scandal, okay? Like, there's no way Metroid Dread doesn't get some sort of nomination. I'm not saying Game of the Year nomination. I'm just saying some sort of nomination Metroid Dread absolutely needs to get. So point is, there's going to be an opportunity to sort of like mix in maybe some sort of Metroid-related announcement. It could be any of the things we've just already mentioned, but I think DLC, if it's in the works, which I think is likely, given how many other Nintendo games have gotten DLC, that could be brought up at the Game Awards, you know? And maybe they could even tie that into Nintendo's online service. Mentioned it again at the Game Awards. Hey, you guys are hyped for Metroid Dread? You want to play it? Great. Well, guess what? You can get the DLC for free on Nintendo's Plus expansion pack. And then they start to, you know, build up that content offering a little bit more. Because just a free Animal Crossing DLC, not everyone's into Animal Crossing. But if you hit those Metroid Dread fans, now you have maybe a more core-centric, you know, Nintendo fan kind of getting something that's for them in there. Not saying that there isn't crossover between Animal Crossing and Metroid fans. I'm sure there is. But you understand my point. Not everyone who's an Animal Crossing fan is a Metroid fan, or vice versa. So they get an even wider audience by doing that. So that's a possibility, you know? And with that other possibility, that would something that Nintendo would absolutely prioritize over showing off Prime 4, because it makes more sense in the now, you know what I mean? So those are considerations. But then the other consideration is that Nintendo may have another sort of big exciting game to show off at the Game Awards. That's Zelda. Specifically, Breath of the Wild 2. I think there's a really good chance we could see a Breath of the Wild 2 trailer at the Game Awards. Why do I think that? Well, Breath of the Wild 2 is still currently slated for 2022. I will stick to my belief that it will maintain that date, even though right now Advance Wars is pushed into there. I don't think the delay of Advance Wars implies that Breath of the Wild 2 isn't coming out in 2022. Like, those are just two very different kinds of games, probably coming out at very different times of the year. I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 is a spring 2022 game. If it was, we would have known about it already. So I don't think that's something we should be concerned about. But the other thing is that, you know, Nintendo waited 2 years to give us any sort of information on the release timing of the game. And I think the reason they waited that long was because they did not want to put us in a situation like it was for the initial Breath of the Wild. So they waited intentionally until they were confident about the release year. That's what I think. So I don't think it's getting delayed. I think Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be a big deal kind of game coming out 2022, probably towards the holiday. And with that in mind, there's going to be a lead up to Breath of the Wild 2, and there's probably going to be a tease at the Game Awards. There are multiple Breath of the Wild teases with the first couple, there's a couple Game Awards before the release of Breath of the Wild, those couple years leading up to it. They had Breath of the Wild presence at the Game Awards. So for Breath of the Wild 2, I feel like, at least for this one, I don't think they'll have it at the next one unless it's like DLC related. I think they're gonna, have some sort of trailer. I think there's a good chance of that. There's just a history of Breath of the Wild at the Game Awards. Another thing to consider now is that Smash is gone. Smash is done. Like, it is done. There was debate before. People were hoping for like some sort of bonus expansion pack or something. Nope, that's it. Sora's the end. So with that in mind, this Smash was always like a good option for a Game of the Awards announcement, but that's no longer there. So with Smash gone, what's left? Well, the other game that's been featured prominently, or series that's been featured prominently at the Game Awards, is Legend of Zelda, specifically Breath of the Wild, and we have Breath of the Wild 2 coming out next year. It's going to probably be like Nintendo's big holiday game. It's at least like one of their top 3 big games for the year, for sure. So there's a really good chance Breath of the Wild 2 gets a trailer there. And if we're getting a trailer for Breath of the Wild 2 at the Game Awards, I feel like that decreases the chances of us also getting a Metroid Prime 4 trailer. So when you consider the likelihood of a Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, and Nintendo probably wanted to prioritize maybe Metroid Dread DLC or a Metroid Prime Trilogy or Prime Remake announcement before Prime 4 hype, I just think Prime 4 isn't a likely bet for a Game of the Awards 2021 announcement. Love to be wrong, but everything else I mentioned is also really exciting, so I'm okay with all of that. And, it doesn't have to just be one announcement. It could be 1 or 2, maybe 3, third one being more on the smaller side, but you get my point. I think all of those things decrease the chances of a Prime 4 tease at this point. Not saying we won't see something during 2022, but at this point, I think I'm not expecting it. And there's my, what was that, like a 10-minute tangent? There you go. So, yeah, I think I answered your question, Game Walkthroughs. Oh, I got a chat jump again. I lost my place in the chat. I'll find it. I will not give up. I will find it. Maybe I won't. Oh man, I lost it. I will come back to it. There we go. All right, I'm back. All right, Super Chris. While Super Mario 64 aged in terms of gameplay, it at least set a standard for 3D Super Mario platformers ever since. Absolutely, that's a very true statement. Very true statement. Hello there, ASAP Rel. How you doing? Super Chris. I should know, given that Super Mario 64 is still one of my favorite video games to play to this day. It's a fun game to play. I still enjoy it, for sure. Like I mentioned earlier, playing it on 3D All-Stars, I think, with the HD visuals, the upscale of it, and playing on a Pro Controller. Granted, 3D All-Stars is going to be more, the 3D All-Star version of Mario 64 is going to be a more remastered version than what we're getting for the N64 Online, but still, being able to play on a Pro Controller or modern controllers in general, having that HD upscale, that's going to help these games a little bit. And I mean, really, the thing that's held me back from playing N64 games is just that analog stick. Do I have it? I do. 1 second. I have one here. I got one right here. So, this thing it's a little dusty. I haven't used it. this one's actually in pretty good condition, but it hurts, man. This thing hurts. I definitely got like some calluses and blisters playing Mario 64 on with this control stick. Like, it's not comfortable, not compared to modern controllers nowadays. So like, I think just the fact that we're able to play on modern controllers will just inherently enhance the experience. So I do feel like between that and the HD upscale, which will make the game seem a little bit more clean, a little bit more clear, they're gonna be fine for the most part. I think they're gonna be pretty playable, and the poor aging will not feel as substantial. Where are we at here? All right, good. Can we get to 100 concurrent viewers this week? We're at 83 right now. Pretty good number. A lot of you guys here in the chat. But if we can get to 100, that'd be awesome. So guys, like the stream, be active in the chat, share it to those who you think will be interested. It'd be awesome if we can get there. Moving on here, the chat. D Fox Atomy. As far as 64 games go, I'm already emulating Ocarina of Time 3D, Majora's Mask 3D, Star Fox 64 3D, which I dumped. I see. For copies you legally own. Yeah, a lot of people do emulate those games. I'm gonna be excited to have those on my N64, and I'm gonna be excited to play Star Fox online. That's gonna be a dream. Zane. So is the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD leak fake? I don't think it is. But there's something that, you know, it gets tricky with leaks, real leaks, because information can get conflated with things that are true. Plans can change. I think that's the big one. When you're hearing about information that hasn't been announced yet, it's subject for change. Hence why it hasn't been announced yet, because it's not official. They're not sure. So, you know, those things can kind of get in the way. And also, it just could be timing, right? Like, we knew about Skyward Sword HD for years before it was officially announced. So, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD were only really discussed, what, early this year or the year before? Like, it wasn't, I don't remember exactly when the timing started. It started, it was after the 3D All-Stars hype last year, but, you know, earliest I would say would be late last year, right, where it sort of, that discussion sort of started. Something like that, at least. Could have been a little bit earlier, but you get my point. It hasn't been that long since those games have been in discussion, and I do think they're coming at some point or another. But when is that some point or another? It could take a while. If Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out next year, is there really a reason to put out Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, right? We didn't get the Zelda anniversary celebration we were sort of hoping for this year, right? So if Nintendo's going to skip that, when do they have those games? They could just wait a couple years when they don't have a new sort of Zelda property to release. Then they could put those out there to sort of maintain the Zelda fan base. Nintendo likes to have at least one fairly substantial Zelda offering per year, right? This year was Skyward Sword HD, last year was Age of Calamity, the year before that was Link's Awakening Remake. So, you know, they have stuff coming out every year. I think the year before that, it was the Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, and then, you know, Champions Ballad DLC came at the end of 2017, and obviously Breath of the Wild was 2017. So, you know, they've kind of maintained Zelda content every year, something. So, you know, they could save those for when there's not a big Zelda game ready. Maybe 2023, maybe 2024, you know, maybe then. Now, you know, if we're getting into 2023, 2024, maybe later, at that point, you gotta wonder, is it coming for Switch? Well, I personally think that Switch will be getting games until 2025. So I'd say there's still a really good bet that those games do come to Switch. Now, they may be also available for Nintendo's next platform, because I think there's going to be a bit of a crossover there. But yes, I do think they'll eventually come, but I think the key phrase to bring up here would be patience. It's not going to come when we expect it, but it'll come. Or at least when we want it. Maybe you do expect it to take a while, but when we want it, you know, which will be already, no, we're gonna have to wait. I'll say that there were rumors for an Ocarina of Time in Majora's Mask HD and people were thinking that was fake, that was bogus. And technically it isn't, because guess what? N64 Online is real, and Ocarina of Time will be upscaled in HD, as will Majora's Mask. So technically that rumor is true. You know? And that's kind of what I expected. When we talked about that rumor, I said, I think the most realistic consideration is that we get those games available in the eShop in some way. And that's exactly what's going to happen through Nintendo Online. So, you know, it's just, with these rumors, it's tough, but I do think they're real. It's just a matter of when. Name withheld. Hey Andres, sorry to capsize a live chat, but is that a Nike t-shirt you're wearing? It is not a Nike t-shirt. I am wearing a red hoodie, and this is actually a tank top. Not trying to be lewd here. It's just a tank top. I think it's actually a Dragon Ball Super tank top. I think I have a, yeah, there's a Wii symbol here. Yeah. But, yeah. Yeah, let's see here. Nishan Kelkar just completed a super hard Shine Spark puzzle. Congratulations. I've been thinking about putting together like some sort of video doing all the Shine Sparks, because they are very challenging, but they are fun as hell. And I think maybe I could offer a little bit of advice on them. There's just I think the thing is that the game doesn't tell you about a lot of mechanics related to speed boosting and shine sparking in Metroid Dread. Like, for example, you can, if you shine spark into a ramp or slope, that will automatically put you back into speed boost state, and then you can re-shine spark. That's something that the game doesn't tell you, from what I've seen, and that makes a big difference for a lot of puzzles. Another cool thing is that when you're speed boosting, you can't change your direction normally, but you can actually wall jump, and that will change you to the opposite direction. So you can be like screw attack, speed boosting or running, and go left, right, and that allows you to maintain your speed boost state, but still be changing directions and going up vertically or downwards as well. But, well, mostly vertically. You'd be going wall to wall. So those are just some cool little, you know, speed boost shine spark mechanics that some people may not have realized, which could help you do some of those puzzles. Who else would say the Dread critics should play Aim to R, then come back and say Dread is hard? Yeah, right? Taker610 with a super chat. Thank you very much, Taker. How did Kraid sink into lava he was standing in? You know, great question. Actually, when I got my suit improvement so I could go in the lava, I made sure to dive in there and be like, is there any signs of Kraid in here? And it's not that deep. It's not that deep. I actually, as much as I love the Kraid fight, the final cinematic I felt like was a little weird, like, because they didn't quite show the finishing blow on Kraid. Like, I think it's implied that Samus's shot takes out Kraid, or Kraid was already like kind of like gasping for air, dying by that cutscene. But it was a little strange how that ended, because he wouldn't burn because he's already chilling in the lava, right? Like, he wouldn't burn. So I think just overlook it. Like, it's not that big a deal. I mean, it's maybe deep enough if you're from the kind of fall in, but, you know, not that deep. Or maybe it was sealed afterwards. Maybe that's a possibility, right? Like, this was like a chamber. We do know that whatchamacallit, the well, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, there's certain things at hand that could maybe explain why that happened to Kraid, but I don't want to spoil anything here. So, hey, Game Over Jesse in the chat. What's up, man? How you doing? Thank you, Jesse. Jesse says, any game is a great game when you're watching Andres play it. I wish I played games live sometimes, but Also, I kind of like playing them privately. Yeah, Gamer Jesse says Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild are both nominated for a lot of Game of the Year awards, and in almost every case, Breath of the Wild won. Yeah, it was winner across the board pretty much. Let's see here. All right. Oh, Game Over Jesse, you think are you, when you're saying you put your money in Ocarina of Time HD before Twilight Princess HD, do you mean Ocarina of Time through N64 Online, or do you mean something else? John Paul Scourneck, Prime 4 versus timing of Switch 2 announcement. It's clearly cross-gen at this point. So what's Metroid tied over? So what Metroid tied over will we have with Dread's Descent sales performance right now? So I mean, I think I already kind of touched on it earlier. But I'll kind of explain my full thinking here. Currently, my thinking is that next year we're going to see either Prime Trilogy or Metroid Prime Remake. I'm thinking it's going to be a Metroid Prime Remake. And then Prime 2 and 3 are going to be like the Twilight Princess HD, the Wind Waker HD sort of thing at some point in the future, or the Mario Galaxy 2 from 3D All-Stars, like the missing games that kind of make sense but aren't there yet. Like those games will eventually come someday, but not yet. That's what I'm kind of thinking. And then Metroid Prime 4 maybe is revealed gameplay-wise. That's to some extent late next year, either E3 or the September Direct, maybe the Game Awards next year. That at some point in next year we get like a teaser for it, and then the year after, 2023, I'm gonna assume holiday 2023, it comes out. And I think by that point we will actually be kind of talking about the next generation Switch. So I think it'll be a cross-gen release of some kind, actually, yeah. But again, as I suggested earlier, I think games will be coming out for Switch until 2025. So I think there'll be a lot of cross-gen releases during that time. There's going to be a big transitional period. The Switch 2 may be not just backwards compatible, but also forwards compatible, meaning that new games on Switch will play on Switch 2, and new games on Switch 2 will play on Switch, like both ways. It's almost going to feel like maybe like almost just like a revision, potentially. But except there will be a phase-out period, and the Switch 2 will continue to play new games moving forward after a couple years, while base Switch will be phased out. So basically, Switch, in my head, my speculation is that Switch came out March 2017, and at some point in 2025, new games will stop being compatible with Switch games sometime during that period. So we have like an 8+ year period of time where I think the Switch will be relevant in terms of new software releases, but that by that point we'll have transitioned over. But yeah, so Metroid Prime 4 I think has a holiday 2023 release, and it'll be something that will be, it'll be touted for Switch 2, but also Switch 1 as well. Like you'll be able to play it on both systems. Heck, maybe it'll be the same actual cartridge. I don't know if Nintendo will be able to do it in that way, but either way, in some shape or form, Metroid Prime 4 will be available on both platforms. I think that'll be a holiday 2023 thing. That's what I'm thinking. It won't just be Prime 4. I think maybe like a Mario Kart 9 and Prime 4, like a dual sort of thing around that time. Oh, good point, Birdman. Age of Calamity DLC is going to be out this coming Friday. Can't wait. Yeah, if you guys are looking forward to the Age of Calamity DLC, it's coming out soon, man. D-Dub, hello there. Thanks for the greetings. IzzyXE 1019. What if either Persona 5 Original or R is announced at the Game Awards for Switch? Yeah. Because they're not. There is no Persona 5 for Switch announced yet, has there? Ben, can't think of it. That would be a nice little announcement. That's also something that I don't even think needs to be announced at the Game Awards, though. I think that could be just like a Twitter drop at some point. But it could be, if it has like maybe some additional Nintendo-ish content or something. Birdman, I wonder how Zelda and Link got that Master Cycle 0. Did they have to fight that monk? Well, I mean, you do get it when you beat the monk. Igor Lucena, I want the new console in 2023. I don't want to wait more. I think that's, you know, I mean, again, I think holiday 2023 is when we're going to see it. Which, by the way, would be set. Would if Switch comes out March 2017, right, and Switch 2 comes out, say November, or let's say October. Just, you know, yeah, let's say October. That's. Heck, let's just say September. That would be 6.5 years before Nintendo releases a next generation system. That's a pretty long. That's the longest window for a home console life cycle. And granted, I still expect Switch to be relevant when that system comes out for another 2 years or so. So, you know, the Switch is going to have a long lifespan, 8.5+ years of relevance, which is a long time. But yeah, Nintendo is not going to wait for the Switch to just completely die and sputter out before they move on to their next system. There's going to be a transitional period. So I see I have a super chat here from Paint Fat Purple. How you doing, buddy? So Paint Fat Purple says, Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out Friday, March 3rd, 2023 with new Switch hardware. Mark it down. You're really confident about that. I have seen you mention this before. So, well, I'll tell you this. At least you're not saying 2022, because if you were saying 2022, I'd feel like that the boat has sailed on a March 2022 release date for Breath of the Wild 2. And again, I mean, I don't know if you heard my argument earlier, but I think 2022 is going to hold for Breath of the Wild, because I don't think Nintendo would have put out that date if they weren't confident about it. They waited 2 years to give us an update on the release timing, even though the game has been in development since 2017. We know that from interviews. The game's been in development since 2017. They already had a foundation in place because Breath of the Wild is the original game here. This game is set in Hyrule. So how much more additional work did you really need to get done here? Breath of the Wild 2, I'm sure, is a big game, but the point is they had a lot already there as a foundation starting in 2017. They didn't show off the game announcing what it is until 2019, and that was a story trailer, which, by the way, is usually done late into development for a Zelda game. So they had to have a pretty good working knowledge of what they were doing with Breath of the Wild by 2019. Yet at that point, they still chose to not give us anything on release timing. They waited 2 whole years to then give us information on the release timing. To me, I think that's highly suggested Nintendo's a pretty good idea that it's coming out at some point next year. Now, maybe it's delayed. I don't think so, though. I think the delays already happened. They happened internally and they weren't announced publicly. I think the game could have come out a lot sooner, but because of COVID and all that, and because of Zelda, no. But next year, I think it's absolutely coming. But let's entertain your idea, though, of a March 2023. So let's check the calendar here. All right. Typically, Nintendo releases things on Friday. There are exceptions, but typically it's a Friday. So let's go to March 3rd, 2023. Is it a Friday? It is a Friday. So, all right. That's a check. That's a check. It is a Friday. But I'll also say I don't think Nintendo knows when Breath of the Wild 2 is coming. If it's coming out then, like if it's so much in flux that it could come out then, I don't think Nintendo knows this yet, right? So there's that. But also, I think what you're alluding to is that Breath of the Wild Nintendo Switch, the original Breath of the Wild, came out March 3rd, 2017, right? So the idea is that it's kind of like another time of that, and it did. Like an anniversary, like a 6-year anniversary for that. But, you know, I don't really subscribe to thinking too much of Nintendo repeating these dates, especially with the March thing. Yes, Nintendo has shown that they'd like to have games come out, you know, right before the end of the fiscal year to get out one sort of big more thing for the fiscal year. And there's been some pretty good results, like a Monster Hunter Rise, like Animal Crossing New Horizons, of course, and obviously Breath of the Wild and the Switch. But Initially, Breath of the Wild wasn't supposed to come out for March 2017. It was going to be a holiday 2016 game. Obviously, initially before that was supposed to be a 2015 game, but it got delayed multiple times. But if it wasn't because of the localization in the Nintendo Switch, Breath of the Wild would have come out on Wii U November 2016. Nintendo would prefer for their big Zelda to come out for the holiday. They don't want it to come out for March. Yes, coming out in March, it can be successful. It can drive up a lot of sales. But imagine if they were to come out with new hardware and a new Zelda in time for Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Christmas and New Year's, and then have it available for January for people where people can use their gift cards, and February so someone can get it for Valentine's Day, and then March. That's much better. So I think if Nintendo can, they actually are absolutely gonna target a holiday release for both Zelda and new hardware. If it's within somewhere within that window. Now, can it be delayed to March? That's different. But Nintendo doesn't want it to come out in March. I don't think so. I think they want it to come out for holiday. It makes way more sense. And historically speaking, excluding Breath of the Wild, all mainline Zeldas have come, most mainline Zeldas I should say, come out for the holidays. That's when they like to bring it out, around November. Now because they have to share things with Pokemon, they might do October. Look at Metroid Dread, it came out in October. Pokemon's coming out in November. You kind of see the point here. Mario Odyssey came out in October. Pokemon Let's Go, it was on 3DS, the Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. And then Smash was December, and then Pokemon Let's Go in 2018 was November. But you kind of see my point here. Luigi's Mansion 3 was an October game. Sword and Shield was a November game. So we have seen Nintendo kind of put like their other big game like either in October or December to surround Pokemon, but not be then. So maybe Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in October, if there's a Pokemon game in November. But because of Legends Arceus, I'm not sure we'll see Generation 9 this year. We'll see. But anyway, I don't necessarily believe in the March 3rd, 2023 release date for Breath of the Wild 2 and the Switch hardware. But it's possible. It's absolutely possible. But I'm actually thinking Breath of the Wild 2 is a holiday 2022 release, and we're not talking about new Switch hardware until holiday 2023, and maybe then we see like a Mario Kart 9 and Metroid Prime 4. That's what I'm sort of thinking. Let's see here. Where are we? All right, we still got another 15-20 minutes, I think. I think actually, let's talk about Pokemon. I'll get to a couple chats here, and then I'll talk about the Pokemon situation. And I should talk about the Smash situation, too. Let's see here. Guy you don't know. Since we know that Dread doesn't mark the end of the 2D series as a whole, do you think the next game will end up being on the current gen Switch or the Switch's next gen successor? It's a good question. I'll tell you this. I think for a fact it will be playable on the Switch's next-gen successor. 100%. Because I think it's going to be backwards compatible. Now, and I think it will run the game better in some way, shape, or form. Maybe in 4K or something. It's going to run the game better. That I believe. But will this game be available for base Switch? And that does come down to release timing. I think if the game, because we're in 2021 right now, it's a tough call. Because I think the Switch will be supported into 2025 with new releases. But the thing is, maybe they taper off by the end of 2025, right? I don't know. Let's say if the game, if the next 2D Metroid comes out in by 2025, I'm gonna say yes. If it comes out after, say 2026 or beyond, then no. But then the question is, will it come out by 2025? I think there's a good chance, because Samus Returns came out 2017, and Metroid Dread came out 2021. Basically a 4-year development time. But there's a few things to consider with that. One, there is a lot to sort of transition and change over between 3DS development and Switch development. there was a significant leap there in terms of technology, right? So that certainly would lengthen the development span. They already have a modern HD engine in place. I think the transition between now and whatever technology exists or exists currently so they can sort of develop for that in mind isn't nearly as big of a jump, not even close. So I think that kind of inherently shortens the development cycle a little bit. So they kind of have like an engine in place is my point here. And the other thing to consider is that we went through a pandemic. We're still going through it. That has caused all sorts of delays to all sorts of games. Metroid Dread might have been ready a while ago. Maybe it could have been ready for the year before, right? So I think that shortens the development time a little bit as well. So with those things in mind, they could pump out another 2D Metroid, I would say 3 years from now. So I think we could see that come out 2024. Maybe still push it to 2025. Maybe it's an early 2025 release, right? Point is, I think the development time for the next 2D Metroid is actually going to be shorter. Now, something to consider is if they will make another 2D Metroid. We do know they want to continue the storyline, but are they gonna follow it up so quickly? My opinion is yes, mainly because I'm sure there are other concepts that Sakamoto has in mind. I'm sure it hasn't just been Dread all these years. But then also, with the success of Dread, I'm pretty sure they want to follow that up. They have some serious potential here. They struck gold with Metroid Dread. They struck gold with this team combination of Nintendo and Sakamoto and Mercury Steam. I think they absolutely want to follow it up because it's guaranteed money, and they know what they're doing. So I think there's a good chance we do see the 2D Metroid successor before the end of the Switch's life entirely. I do think by the time it comes out, the Switch successor will be out already, but it'll be available for both systems. Yeah, that's what I'm banking on, actually. And before that, I think we'll see Prime 4, and I think we'll see a Metroid Prime Remake. So actually, we could conceivably Metroid Prime Remake next year, Metroid Prime 4 2023, then 2024, maybe we see the next 2D Metroid, and then the next 2D Metroid. Next 2D Metroid. Sure. Then, maybe they throw in a spin-off somewhere in between, or something, Yeah, and then you still have 2 and 3 they could put out at some point as well for the Prime series. So we're going to get a lot of Metroid in the next few years, I think. Game Over Jesse brings a good point in the chat. One of Breath of the Wild's big delay was for a bit more than just it being ported to Switch. Nintendo had to remove every single Wii U only feature, come with different gameplay mechanics, etc. So I mean, I guess I oversimplified it, but like they had to make sure that there was a proper Switch version and that there were certain concepts in mind for the Wii U. But that did lead to some delays. But point I was making simply that it would have been like a holiday 2016 release otherwise. But yeah, there were significant things that need to be changed. Like when you look at the Sheikah tablet, like it's very much like a Wii U gamepad for a reason. That's a relic of the Wii U exclusive development. So let's talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus for a little bit. So it doesn't have to be a long topic but I said I was going to address it, so I'm going to address it. So what's interesting about Pokemon Legends Arceus, one is that we're getting like new sort of Pokemon announcements or new regional variations, and it feels like a lead up to a new game, which is really nice, especially because the game is not coming out until January, and we're getting like new Pokemon announcements every like month or so. That's really cool. We got Cleavor, I think the month before this time this week we got the announcement of Hisuian Zorua and Zoroark. It was really cool how they presented him, because early in the week they gave us like this found footage. It was very scratchy. You got that sort of gray noise sort of thing. You couldn't tell what was going on. The footage was really messed up, and it was hard to tell what was going on. But it was this guy exploring the cold, presumably the northern region of Hisui, Sinnoh, in the past. And he's seeing a whole bunch of, he saw the Snorunt, which is an ice type Pokemon, but then he goes further in and he gets attacked by something and you think he dies or something like that. It's very creepy, which isn't, the timing is ideal for Halloween, which is coming up in less than a week or a week. So, that kind of happened. And then like 2 days later, they're like, oh no, the footage was restored. And you get to see everything very clearly. And we see this Zora and Zoroark, and it was interesting because the speculation was either something related to Frostlass or a regional form of Zora, because they described a Pokemon looked kind of like a Growlithe or a Vulpix, but not quite them. Closest thing to them that's not them would be Zora, and that's exactly what ended up being, a regional variation of Zora and Zoroark. And what's cool is that they're actually normal ghost type, which means they have 3 different immunities. And depending on the ability, I don't know. I personally think the Pokemon can be pretty good. It's a unique typing. Some serious potential there. Obviously, we don't know the stats of the ability yet, but some cool things there. It's pretty exciting. So I think it's cool. I kind of love the lead up to Legends Arceus. Like to me, it's way more exciting than Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. I'm committed to getting Legends Arceus. I'm excited to see what other new Pokemon sort of announce here. Because at first I wasn't sure how many more new Pokemon there would be. But now that we're seeing that like every month or so they're kind of announcing something else new. And we still have a few months left. That's kind of reassuring. And I'm hoping that they don't completely sort of like blow their load here. And there's like a few more surprises when the game comes out. That's the way it was for Sword and Shield. So I'm hoping that, the same applies here for Legends Arceus. It seems like they're really putting a lot of effort behind this, and I think it's great. I hope that they continue doing little cool teases like this. This sort of found footage stuff I think was a lot better than how they handled the reveal for Galarian Ponyta and Rapidash back when Sword and Shield was coming out. That was cool, but what was weird is that we had to watch like a 24-hour stream, and there was a couple things throughout, but like it's just long stream. These are 2-minute like little pieces of video that were a lot easier to digest, and yet there were still teasers, still at the discussion. I think it's kind of weird that they only waited 2 days to sort of reveal everything. Like, why couldn't they have waited closer to Halloween? I don't know, but I'm actually just a little salty because I was putting together an analysis video earlier in the week, and then what happened? They didn't even I didn't even have 2 days to like make it and put it out there, so I had to completely can the project once they did that. Which was unfortunate. And then my internet went out for like a day, so I couldn't even finish like making content for another video instead. So it was just a weird week between news and internet going out. But I think Pokemon Legends Arceus is shaping up well. Honestly, I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty darn excited about it. So let's see here. I see Game Over Just so you added me. Also, on Just Restart, I know you were simplifying it. I apologize for making it sound like I was saying you were wrong or didn't, or I was just adding it for the chat. Oh no, we're totally good, there. Who else would say Normal Ghost? I've been waiting for this day. Yeah, right. Normal Ghost is a very unique typing. It's the first time we see a Normal Ghost Pokemon. So because it's Normal type, that means it can't get hit by Ghost moves. So that means when you want to hit it for super effective with a Ghost move, because Ghost is super effective against Ghost, you can't. And also, because it's Ghost, you cannot hit it for super effective fighting either, because fighting would hit normal, but you can't because it's Ghost. And then also, you can't hit it with normal attacks either, because it's Ghost. So the Ghost gives it fighting and normal immunity, and normal gives it Ghost immunity. And you can't hit for super effective unless you use a dark move. So that gives it kind of like a really nice sort of typing right there, which is pretty cool. I was having an argument with my friends earlier. It's like, hey, I think it's supposed to be great, and they're like, oh, but there's nothing else. I know, but it's a really good start. So I think it has some serious potential for a Pokemon, and it looks cool. Just the white with the red just looks cool. Let's see here. Game Over Jesse was speaking to Seahawks here, but he said they do have a dedicated 2D Zelda team. Altogether, Nintendo usually has around 4 to 5 different teams working on different Zelda games at the same time. And I like that you bring that up, mainly because we're talking about Metroid today and how there could be like more consistent Metroids. But I think we're kind of getting close to a similar scenario here, right? Where you have multiple teams working on Zelda. But Nintendo may be putting something together similar for Metroid, right? Like you have Mercury Steam working on the 2D Metroid. You have Retro Studios working on Metroid Prime. And, with these two different teams, they can be bringing out multiple Metroids more often, right? And maybe they have another developer work on a spin-off, depending on whatever project it is. And they have multiple studios there. And then obviously internal Nintendo also is helping out with Metroid as well. So you have Mercury Steam, you have Retro Studios, which is internal Nintendo, but they're in the West. I'm talking about like EPD groups. So it's just interesting how, Nintendo may have a plan for multiple of their core franchises to have regular release. We know Zelda has a regular release every single year. It's just exciting because Metroid may be getting close to something similar. So let's see here. All right, I haven't talked about this either yet. I should discuss it, and that is Sora in Smash Brothers. So we kind of touched on it earlier, but it's the end of the Smash DLC. And I play with Sora, and I gotta say, he's just a fun character. Just a fun character. It was fun to play with him. I'm not like a competitive Smash player, so like my understanding of the mechanics isn't very deep. But I've noticed his recovery is pretty insane. Like with the side B, you have a lot of horizontal movement. His midair jump is just ridiculously high, and then he still has a pretty good up B to send him even further up as well. It's like a directional spin attack, so that's like, it's just his aerial ability is just insane. And then he can kind of like jab people with his Keyblade, and that can kind of push people off stage a lot, and he can rack up damage that way. So he's a pretty fun character. Like for me, I like characters that are, I like sword fighters, and that, so for me, it kind of works out pretty well. He seems pretty straightforward, but then he also has the the neutral B, where he can cycle through his fire, electric, and ice attacks, which is interesting because there's some variation there. They kind of figuring out the timing of it is a little unique with that. It's not hard, but you kind of cycle through, and you got those options. I was spamming fire a lot because why not? But the lightning seems to like have some pretty good oomph there. It's just a fun character, and it's just kind of interesting kind of thinking about it. Like, I talked about it a lot. I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan, just for the record, although I am gonna try it out on Switch when all three games are available through the cloud. But maybe I could just play it on PS4. We'll see. Anyway, but like, it's just interesting because like, for a long time, if you guys have been following me, I feel like I've always said, Sora would be the ideal character for a final climactic reveal. Now, I'm not going to try and say that I was banking on Sora. I was not, because I didn't expect Nintendo to have a final climactic reveal. But they did it, and it was Sora. And that's kind of like, I think Nintendo did right there. And what's interesting is that we got the Sakurai columns, right? And it was sort of clarified that Sora was the bonus character. Like, there was a speculation, maybe we'll get a bonus character. Well, when you think about when they revealed Fires Past 2 and they showed off 5, and they're like, here's one more, that was for Sora, and Sora is the bonus character. People are hoping there'd be another bonus character, but it's, how it is with us. We always want more, right? But it was interesting because apparently Sora was not a foregone conclusion. Like, they actually got lucky because, Sakurai met one of the Disney executives at an award show, and they would have come together in that way. So it's just interesting how that worked out, right? Like, I feel like some people were arguing that, because, Sora happened, that means other characters couldn't have happened instead. And maybe that's the case because Sora was a bonus character, right? But, like, what if Sakurai was just at an award show and he met a Microsoft executive? It's like, hey, let's do Master Chief. And I'm like, all right, we're doing Master Chief. Like, I think it could have, conceivably gone in that direction potentially, Although I feel like Sora was the right character. And I do think that it makes more sense because Sora was very high up in the Smash, but I don't think Master Chief was, not at the time. So to kind of see it come together here, see how the Smash DLC has ended. I think they had a pretty good selection of characters, and I'm not even a fan of all the characters, right? Like, I'm not a fan of Kingdom Hearts. I'm not a fan of Tekken. Not a fan of Fatal Fury. Not saying I don't like the characters, not saying I don't like the games. They're just not games that I buy all the time and obsess over, you know what I mean? But those characters are cool. Joker was cool. Like there was a lot of variety there. I think they appeal to different audiences. I'm not a fan of Minecraft, and I think Steve and Alex are cool, but I still got characters I wanted. I got Rex and Pyra. I think Sora's actually a pretty fun character to play as. Same thing with Terry as well. Banjo and Kazooie. Like, Byleth I actually really enjoy because I'm a big fan of Fire Emblem Three Houses. And I just like how the character plays, actually. So, I think they did a really good job. And the character's really fun to play as. I enjoy the stage. It's a solid final offering. So I'm satisfied. I think they did a great job with the DLC. Guy you don't know added me. I like that Sora is actually a more straightforward character than most of the other DLC characters, right? Like, I tend to be more inclined with the straightforward characters. The more weird technical characters typically aren't for me. So I actually appreciate the way he plays. He feels like more of a typical Smash character, while still feeling unique, right? Like, not to misconstrue that. Like, I'm not saying that the character is basic, and it's just basically a clone of Link or something. Like, no, the character feels like his own proper unique character, but his movements are more along the lines of what we've seen in Smash Bros. Already, just with their own sort of variations. Like, it doesn't, they didn't reinvent the wheel for Sora, but they did do it for Minecraft Steve. So, some of the DLC characters, they tried some really weird mechanics, like Min Min. Some weird stuff, like playing with that character is not like playing other Smash characters. But they did that because, they wanted to kind of feel it somewhat like ARMS, which I appreciate the effort towards that, but also ultimately I like the straightforward characters personally. So it's pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. Ronnie Fozzie, I've never played a Halo game myself. Sora for me is bigger than Master Chief. I think Sora is the better choice. Like, Master Chief is cool, but I'm okay with Sora over Master Chief. Although Master Chief is not too far behind, for me at least, in terms of coolness of it. Yeah, Gamer Over Jesse said, I am beyond jealous of Andres' Charmander. Yeah, he gets to just kind of relax, not do much, occasionally talk, but mostly just live a life of comfort. It's pretty fun. I'm seeing Gamer Over Jesse said, I almost forgot they have Konami working on the Hyrule Warriors franchise, so that is about 6 teams altogether. You think they're working on another one? I guess they could be. They very well could be. Okay. So, I think we're approaching the end of this Q&A. Let me see here. If you guys want to put any final comments or questions in the chat, this is your chance. But I'm going to be calling it a night very soon. Game Over Jesse, you were saying, when I was at E3, I was about 6 feet away from the press of Xbox when he said he would love if Master Chief was in Smash. You should have could scream them, do it! Do it! Get it done! They would be the next Smash Brothers. But, when you think about it, there's actually a lot of Microsoft representation in Smash Brothers because you have the Elder Scrolls Mii costume, right? The Dragonborn warrior. You have Doom Guy as Mii costume as well. And these are like pretty well done Mii costumes. You have the Vault Boy from Fallout as well. I understand Doom Guy and like all those characters are from Bethesda, but Bethesda is now owned by Microsoft. So there's technically 3 big Mii costumes for Microsoft, right? And then you have Steve and Alex from Minecraft owned by, even though it's developed by Mojang, Mojang is owned by Microsoft, and then Banjo-Kazooie from Rare, owned by Microsoft. So you have a lot of actual characters represented in Smash Brothers that are owned by Microsoft. So Microsoft actually has a lot of representation in there. We're really just missing Master Chief, really. That's like the big one. That's pretty much it. So, you know, it's interesting to see how the relationship has sort of come along. And, you know, now with N64 Online coming, we know Banjo-Kazooie is on the way. There's rumors and speculation that even more games are on the way that are Rare related. Nintendo probably cut a deal to get those Rare games on there, which just kind of goes to show you that there is a good relationship between Nintendo and Microsoft, and I hope that maintains. What if it'll ever amount to anything brand new between the two? Like, what if we get like a Banjo-Kazooie remake or like Banjo 3 someday? That'd be epic. I don't know when that would happen, but you know, the stuff of dreams, you know? Like, I think we've seen a lot of things that we never thought would happen, and they did this generation. So who knows what's next? I mean, did anyone think Metroid Dread would ever happen? That happened, and it's gonna be the best selling Metroid game ever too, which is just amazing to think about. Seahawks24 Rule, I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. You are welcome. I enjoyed doing it. The Sean Kelkar, what do you guys think we'll see in the next Breath of the Wild 2 trailer? So I think we'll see it at the Game Awards, right? But in terms of what'll be in it, good question. I think that it could, man, I'm sure we'll probably circle back to Zelda at the Game Awards before the Game Awards actually comes. But there's a lot of different directions you can go with that, right? Because from one angle, you could argue that they could show us maybe more information on what's happened with Zelda. They could show us more information on what happened to Ganondorf. They could give us more information on what's going on with Link. Like, there's three different sides to the story here. They could tell us any of those. And, you know, the other consideration is that what if it's not even a trailer? What if it's like more of like a gameplay little demo instead? Like a short gameplay demo of like a dungeon maybe, you know? Just like, hey, look, dungeons are in Breath of the Wild too. Like classical style dungeons. Like, what if they do something like that? That's a possibility as well. Maybe they tease the beginning of the game and we get a more clearer picture of what happens there, why Link is in the sky. So there's a lot of different directions they can go with that. I'm gonna guess that they will not tell us too much about the story. So I think the Zelda, the whereabouts of Zelda and what Ganondorf is doing might still be quite mysterious. We might get some tidbits from it. I'm not saying we won't get anything, but I think those will be fairly reserved. I think our best bet is learning more about what's going on specifically with Link. And maybe potentially we see a clearer shot of his face and what's happened to him. I think of the three main characters, we'll learn more about Link, which may seem kind of like a cop-out given he's the main character, but, you know, that's just kind of like my best guess at this point. JDog103, when's the Game Awards and do they air it live? It's December... and I think it's December 9th this year. And yeah, you'll be able to watch it like on YouTube and Twitch and everything. So I'll stream it probably. So, you know, maybe. We'll see. I don't want to guarantee that, but people will be streaming it. I may stream it. Darcy, what's your favorite thing about your least favorite Pokemon game and your least favorite thing about your favorite Pokemon game? Very interesting question. So first I have to figure out what's my least favorite Pokemon game and my favorite Pokemon game. So let's just assume we're talking about the mainline games, right? Like not spin-offs, just the mainline games. And to tell you the truth, I haven't bought every single Pokemon game, right? Like I ignored Ultra Sun and Moon. I call it Ultra Trash. Because I just didn't feel like buying the same game again, but with a different storyline, like a parallel universe sort of thing, even though there's some cool stuff added in there. I didn't even buy it. So that might be my least favorite Pokemon game, but I didn't buy it, so I didn't really play it, so I can't really speak for that. Of the ones I've played though, which is all the others, at least the other, I've played every generation at least from beginning to end. Gen 2 is my favorite because it's my first one. I have nostalgia for it. Gen 1 I actually really like. So I'll call I'll say Pokemon Soul Silver is my favorite, and then my least favorite. It's between Generation 3 and 5. Not that both are good, you know, but I'm gonna say man, it's tough. I'm gonna say Generation 5. Okay. So my favorite thing about my least favorite generation, Pokemon Black and White, is that they it's just the Pokemon. Like, there's actually a lot of really cool Pokemon, and from a competitive side, there's a lot of options. Like, Volcarona was really cool. Like, I think they include like over 150 new Pokemon for Black and White. Like, it was one of the generations where they included more new Pokemon than before. I thought that was really, really cool. And back then, they were still like playing like 2D Pokemon games, at least in terms of the battles. And they were still using sprites, but the sprites were like 3D animated. So that was really cool as well. But I think ultimately my favorite thing about Generation 5 was just the Pokemon. You know, Volcarona was my favorite. Reshiram, Zekrom were really cool. Zoroark was a really cool new Pokemon. Darmanitan, Excadrill, Hydreigon, Haxorus, Superior. Some really cool Pokemon there. So I think the Pokemon designs and the types and abilities in Generation 5. Chandelure with Shadow Tag. The dream mode abilities of Pokemon like Speed with Blaziken. Like, they offered a lot of cool new Pokemon mechanics and battle abilities. Like, that was my favorite thing about Generation 5. And that was I guess you could argue my least favorite generation. Although I'm still not sure. Maybe Generation 3, but it's close. And I still enjoyed them. Just don't get me wrong. I still enjoyed them. But my favorite generation, which is Generation 2, I enjoyed Pokemon Silver, Pokemon Gold, Crystal, Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Enjoyed all of them. But let's just say Heart Gold, Soul Silver. My least favorite thing about those games is that while it's really, really, really cool, they can go to a second region and explore it. I just wish there was a little bit more to do in that second region. Like, you kind of speed through it because it doesn't feel like there's as much to do, as much holding you back, as much challenge. There's not too much storyline there. I wish it sort of had similar pacing to the first region, where it kind of felt like this entire new world to explore, and there were more new challenges, and there were storylines of like, there is some of that, but it's just not to the same extent as the first region. So if we ever go back to Generation 2 again, I would like them to really add a lot more content to that second region, and make it feel comparable in terms of like content to do and things holding you back and plot progression to the first region. I understand it's like a post-game thing, but you're asking me to split hairs here, right? Because my favorite generation was my least favorite thing. Well, I wish there was more of it, basically, which there's more things to do in it. I just think their second region just kind of pales in comparison to the first one. So, yeah. Birdman, a temple in the modern age of Zelda, I don't know, but maybe. So, like, I do think that, I think we are going to go back to, like, classic style dungeons in Breath of the Wild 2, but classic style dungeons isn't going to be classic style because it's going to be with the open world format, the open air format. So I think that changes a lot in terms of how you go about exploring that. There's some crazy stuff that goes in there. Some crazy stuff. I guess you were referring to what Verby said here. They better have a water temple and a forest temple. Themes, right? Like, they don't have to specifically be the forest temple and the water temple, but like a water style dungeon and a forest style dungeon. That I'm okay with. I'm okay if it's the forest and water temple too. In theory, it just depends how it's done. But I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily have to be those. But yeah, I want a typical water themed dungeon and a typical forest themed dungeon. When I say typical, like it's still gonna be unique and cool, but you know, I want to see those motifs at some point. Who else was saying 3 and 5 are my favorite? There's still really good generations. There's still really good generations. I just have nostalgia for generations 1 and 2 and 4 a lot. 3 and 5 are good. I mean, maybe 6 and 7 and 8. I don't know. Maybe 6 is my least favorite. It's tough. There's just so many generations. I guess 6, 7, and 8 I don't put at the bottom because they're so modernized. Like when they have 3D visuals and stuff, and I think that, you know, I could like the direction they've headed in with that, even though people argue that the storylines are maybe a little lacking. So it's tough in that way. I mean, yeah, maybe you can make that argument because, like, you could argue that Gen 6 feels a little empty by comparison. I do feel like Gen 6 could have had more content in there. Gen 7 I thought was really good, actually. I really enjoyed that. I wish they did a little bit more of the looker missions, though. You know what? I don't know. Because I do feel like the post-game for Generation 6, 7, and 8 have left a bit to be desired. In general, I feel like post-game, there could be so much more done for Pokemon. I always want there to be a better post-game, and I always am a little disappointed with post-game. That's kind of across the board, though, for me. So... I mean, the competitive stuff is cool. I just wish there was more, like, story campaign stuff to do. Who else was saying, your background music is going to be stuck in my head now. Yeah, I have this playing so long sometimes. JDog103, I just hope that they incorporate weapon fusing and rain climbing gear. Yeah, and Breath of the Wild too, right? Like, yeah, a way to deal with rain. And I don't necessarily need weapon fusing per se, but I do want there to be a lot more weapon options. And if fusing is how they go about doing that to some extent, then yeah, I'm all for that. Birdman, 5th gen was a soft reboot for the franchise, which is why they went with the 150, right? It was cool. I really enjoyed that. The thing about Gen 5 for me, it's just, and it might just be a personal thing, like maybe if I would revisit it, I'll like it more. But I just didn't get it as enthralled into the story, and I didn't really feel like playing it much after. Once I beat the Pokemon League, I didn't feel like continuing it at all. Like, for some reason, I didn't feel compelled to do that at all. But I do like that Black White 2 added a whole other area, like they expanded the region. That was really cool. I think they did some really cool things for Generation 5, don't get me wrong. Just my personal experience of it. And I like all the generations, so... You know, like my least favorite is still a generation. I would gladly replay Generation 5. I would gladly replay Generation 3. Kind of want to now that I think about it. Darcy, I feel like Gen 6 was hurt by the lack of a third version, right? The mysterious Zygarde version, just what happened? Pokemon Z, where'd it go, right? Where'd it go? Birdman, Gen 6 was supposed to have a sequel, but was canceled, unfortunately. I don't know about that, so I don't want to speak on it, but not saying you're wrong, I haven't done research on it. But I mean, it did seem like they wanted to do something for Gen Z, which is why we had like they kind of put a lot of that stuff in Sun and Moon, you know? Alice3335, on just restart. Is someone not on your podcast? It looks like you're only chatting with the audience. That is exactly right. This is more of a Q&A tonight. Just me. Colin Perkins Taylor. Interesting seeing the rumors that Gen 9 is supposed to come out winter 2022. What are your thoughts? I don't believe it. I don't know. Like, it could, right? I'm not saying it won't. We'll know by February. Just for the record. Like, that's when we'll know. It's just, with Legends Arceus coming out in January, late January for the record, it's just kind of like, are they really gonna have such a quick turnaround? They may. I wouldn't be surprised if we wait until like if we see Generation 9 come out early 2023 instead. But you know, they like having a Pokemon game available every holiday, so maybe they do that. Although I'd argue that if there's a year to skip, this is the year. You could argue they already had that skip year with the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra DLC, but again, we still had DLC that year, so it's tough. I don't know if I buy the rumors, to be totally frank with you. Where are they coming from? If they're coming from Zippo, I don't buy it at all. Not one bit. If they're coming from, say, Samus Hunter, that I'll take with more weight, because I think Samus Hunter actually gets legitimate information sometimes, for sure. Like, in my opinion, there's been too much she said that's lined up. Now, it's not always like mind-blowing, but I think that actually is indicative that she gets real information, because it's not always mind-blowing. It's just kind of like when information's available, she puts out her 2 cents on what's going on. But again, nothing's ever 100% with information before it's officially revealed. That's just always the case. So even if the plan is Gen 9 for winter 2022, that doesn't mean, that it will come out then. And winter 2022, could that still be for February, right? Or like March or something? I mean, at that point, it's arguably spring, but if it's the very beginning of March, is it spring? It's more like winter still. So like, maybe, yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure yet. It kind of because the thing about Game Freak and Pokemon Company, while I do feel like they're making steps to space things out a little bit, like their outsourced Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, they did DLC with the Crown Tundra and Isle of Armor. Like those things help them to space out the development a little bit, give them a little bit more time to get things done with more quality. They also always make sure there's at least one Pokemon game for the holidays. So while I would love it for the next generation to have more time in the oven, I also think that they needed to have an update soon. And, now that I think about it a little bit more, because Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl and because Legends Arceus, neither of them are going to be where the competitive format is held. Like it's still gonna be on Sword and Shield. I think that's highly indicative that the next generation is actually coming soon. Like I just thought about that now. Like before, like if Legends Arceus or Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, if that was working to hold a competitive format, then they would have had an updated game to hold a competitive format, right? But because they haven't, we're in a situation where they have to kind of push things even further out, tide things over even more so. I don't see them using Pokemon Sword and Shield for 4 years. I think that they're going to move on. And I think that by moving on, that may very well mean that, yeah, we do see the next generation next winter, 2022. It's fascinating about that because I just learned recently that the next competitive bracket season starts like late next it's months into next year it starts apparently. So like the timeline of the tournaments and world I think has been changed as well, and I'm curious how it's going to line up with the next generation of Pokemon, because it'll be a lot closer to when the game would come out. World, I guess I have to double check the dates on that. I'm just kind of assuming based off the events starting into like months into next year. Normally they would start around like this time of the year or something. So yeah, I think that maybe there's some truth to those. I don't know if the rumors themselves are correct, but I think that logic of it coming out next year. Yeah, not to mention we see a Pokemon generation every 3 years. Who's to say why would they I think they should change it to 4 years, but considering that Legends Arceus and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl neither are carrying the competitive format forward, they're still sticking with Sword and Shield. I think that's telling that they have another game around the corner that will be pushing it, because I just don't think they can lag it for that many years. I think they're gonna have to update that soon. So unless they have like a Pokemon Stadium like spinoff where they do it instead coming out next year, I think maybe it is a case that we see the next generation next year. I'm 50-50 on it though, so don't hold me to that. Who else would say maybe Game Freak abolishes the concept of gens? I don't know. I mean, they are introducing a lot of new regional forms for Legends Arceus, but they are still regional forms or evolutions of Pokemon that already have existing lines. We haven't seen a whole set of brand new evolutionary lines for Pokemon in Legends Arceus. Like they could even do 1 or 2, and I still wouldn't feel like that would be too crazy. But like if they would have to like introduce like a few, like a half dozen or so new evolutionary lines of non-legendary or mythical Pokemon for me to be like, okay, they completely broke the definition of gens. Because they've done stuff like this before already, but they're kind of like continuing in this direction. There is like, you know, their patterns are kind of changing this way. We're coming to expect new Pokemon and forms throughout a generation. But yeah, until we start seeing like that, like what I said, like the series of brand new evolutionary lines that are not mythical or legendary, I don't think they've done away with generations yet. But maybe, you know, I'm okay with just new games updating things. I'm not against that. Well, I think we've reached pretty much the end of the discussion. I'll get this one more chat here. Colin Perkins Taylor. I saw the rumors from Sam Messenger. I believe she said that they are planned for holiday 2020, but maybe delayed into January, kind of thing. Yeah, and that I kind of believe. I can see the game the next generation being pushed into like early 2023. I'm not committed to a holiday 2022 thing. But that is like a window, holiday 2020, let's say between November of 2022 to like March of 2023, somewhere then I can see the next generation starting. I'm just more inclined to believe it's going to be later because of Legends Arceus. But when you consider that they need to update the competitive format with a new game, yeah, I think it has to come out around then, but they can push it up to like January, March, or February. I don't think that's too much more of a stretch. Yeah, I think they can maybe do that, especially if with the new pattern they have for the competitive format, if they are going to be starting around March or February every year with the actual tournaments, then they can get away with that, I think. I think it'll work out. But yeah, guys, thanks for coming by for the Q&A. Leave a like, share the stream. It was an enjoyable one. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.